I remember one time, this is good for anyone that thinks I cry too much. I remember one time my dad and I got into a fight. I remember this so vividly, as because it was back when you had calling cards. And my girlfriend was like, we were doing long distance, but she was in like Boca and I was in Tallahassee or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'd use calling cards to call her. I can't even remember how calling cards worked, but I remember I had a calling card. And so I ran up a bill on the calling card, or maybe it was when I was in Europe. It was when I was in Europe maybe, and I came home after Russia. I came home, and I remember being in our laundry room, and my dad got the fucking bill, and he was fucking livid. But as a kid, I was like, what? The calling card how much could it be? And it was like $3.99 a minute, and I just ran up a fucking bill of like $300, and my dad lost his shit, and I got scared, and I started to cry, and he stopped and he went, "Don't you fucking cry. Don't you fucking suck those goddamn tears back up. If I fucking see you cry, I will lose my shit." And I was like, oh God. Oh, Tom, I was 22. I was 22.
Yeah. I cried at like 19 one time seeing him mad. I was so terrified. Where I had used his clubs to play golf. And I didn't put them. They were in separate bags. So then he left to play golf.
Oh my God!
And some of his clubs were in my bag. And when he got back, he was so fucking mad that I swear I was like, I cried. I was so scared. And then he didn't say any of that shit. But then he looked at me like, "Yeah, you wouldn't have survived in the Marine Corps." And then walked away.
Parenting was so different than it is today. Yeah. That was so effective. When my dad lost his shit, that was so effective.
Yeah.
I remember one time telling him, this is how clueless of a kid I was. I was in college, and for spring break, everyone was going to Aspen to go skiing. And I didn't have any money. I didn't have a job. I mean, I had a job, always had a job, but I didn't have any money. And so I was like, "Yeah, I'm going." And I had my friend book the plane ticket for me. I was like, "I'll pay you back." And I was like, "Yeah, get my ski passes. I'll pay you back." So everyone had gotten, like, my buddy Hutch paid for everyone, and he was like, "All right, you guys just cover me," because Hutch had money. But he had money because he worked really hard. He did this, like, door-to-door encyclopedia salesman guy. It was kind of like a Mennonite, but not. And so Hutch paid for everything. So I came home, and I was like, "Yo, Dad, I'm going to Aspen next week." And he was like, "What?" I said, "For spring break." And he goes, "How the fuck are you going to afford that?" And I was like, "Oh, I need you to give me like $700. And he was like, "The fuck did you just say?" And I was like, "I need $700. And he fucking, in my bedroom, lost his fucking shit. Do you know how hard it is to make $700 fucking dollars? And you just come into a house you don't even fucking live in anymore, and you go, "Give me $700. How the fuck?" And he's like, "You're not going." And I was like, "Dad, you're not gonna like this. Someone's already paid for all my shit." He was like, "What the fuck?" But it was so effective because when I got yelled at by my dad, it scared the shit out of me.
Dude, I remember when I went to college, my sister was in Boston in college, and he gave her an allowance, like monthly. He gave her money to be in Boston, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like, let's talk about my allowance for like, you know, for college." And he was like, "What?" I was like, "Oh, because like Maria gets that allowance for Boston, so like what am I getting?" He was like, "You don't get anything." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "You're a guy." I was like, "What do I do?" He's like, "Get a job." I was like, "But I'm full-time in school like your daughter." And he was like, "Yeah, you're different." And I was like, "Okay." So I had a job the entire time I was in college. Like I worked for a broker, and then I got a job at Granger, and then in summers when my sisters would be laying by the pool, I was selling knives door to door. Like I had jobs all through college, and he was like, "Right, because you're a guy. Like you don't get it." And I was like, "How about my little sister?" He's like, "Yeah, she gets an allowance." I was like, "Oh, this is a cool fucking system." Yeah.
My dad gave me an Amoco card, a gas card. Do you remember Amoco? And I would take my friends shopping there and get them to give me cash. And so I just go in, and Tom, I spent so much money at Amoco, they sent him a plaque. He was like, what the fuck? Dude, I remember one time.
You're our P1 Premium Platinum Amco fucking shopper. Jesus Christ.
One time I wrote a check to someone. It was I don't know if it was one of my buddies, and you know at the bottom of the memo part you could write what it was for.
Yeah.
And I wrote eating sweet wet pussy.
Nice.
And my dad was really good friends with the bank it was his bank. I had a checking account under him, and that came in, and the woman read it and called my dad and was like, your son in the memo read eating sweet, wet, hot pussy. And I was like,
that must have made him real happy.
Dude, that man deserves a fucking a statue. He put up with so much shit.
Bert and Tom and Bert. One goes topless while the other wears a shirt. Tom tells stories and Bert's the machine. There's not a chance in hell that they'll keep it clean. Here's what we call 2 bears, 1 cave.